Looking at the FX space, of course, what's happening in terms of the potential Brexit is going to be heavily influencing the FX space, not only in terms of the value of the pound, but also in terms of the value of the euro, because essentially the whole Eurozone project and the European project really comes into question if we did see the UK leave the EU, but also the value of the yen, because the yen is this sort of typical safe haven that everyone seems to flock to when things aren't looking too good. Vice versa, when we see, like we have over the weekend, the Remain camp coming back into the fore, that really doesn't do any favours in terms of yen strength. So we're going to be looking at that today. We're starting off with euro dollar to see what's happening with that. You can see that actually we have pulled back to this 76.4 here. This is the hourly time frame. You can see that we've got this potential sort of bottoming formation here. Now we've broken out of that real key level, that 76.4. That sort of whole area, 112.95, 113 kind of area, was a really important area of resistance. And on Friday, we came up to it, rallied into that resistance point and sold off very heavily. So that was making me think that, we could see another turnaround here and start to sell off once more in line with the formation that we've been seeing over the past 2 weeks. Nevertheless, we of course saw that gap higher because of what's happening with the Brexit. And we can see here with the EU referendum, if we look on the 15 minutes chart, we can see that we are actually trying to pull back down to the 113.23. That's going to be a really important level of support. I do think we're going to see further upside, and therefore, moves lower like this I see as potential buying opportunities as opposed to signs of weakness. That 113.23 is going to be crucial, so be aware of that as a potential support level to be watching out for. Below that, we've also got, of course, that cluster, which is around about 113. If it reaches it, we'll be likely to see a bounce from there. So I do think we're going to see further upside, and therefore the retracement we're seeing at the moment I see as fleeting or temporary. Looking at what's happening with cable, we'll take it onto the daily time frame first, and we can see here that we essentially bottomed out here around about 1.4 and posted that real long-legged sort of spinning top formation. And we got that massive green candle on Friday, of course the big gap higher, and it's followed through today. So really coming back to the fore here, we can see we had that head and shoulders or inverse head and shoulders formation. We did flush back through there, but we used these levels that were previous support levels for support for another move higher. Now we're coming into a really important area of resistance here. You can see over the last, say, month and a half, we've tried to break through this area around about 146.70 up to around about 147.90. Generally, we've not been able to sustain price action above there. Whether we do so or not, I think a lot of that's going to be down to what happens in terms of the polls coming out in the next few days. Nevertheless, if we look in terms of the sort of shorter time frame, the hourly shows us that we have managed to push to another new high this morning. And whilst we are pulling back at the moment, we'd need to break below and close below 145.44 to negate this this trend that we've got in play at the moment and look like we're getting a deeper retracement. So 145.44 has to be the backstop to any downside that we're seeing at the moment. As long as that's not taken out, then I am bullish and I see any retracement as an opportunity to buy into the market. Finally, looking at dollar yen on the daily time frame, we can see clearly defined downtrend. We managed to break below that 105.55 level, which is where I was looking for. I mean, I spent so long talking about the potential sell-off at the 76.4 here. We managed to rally through that. It made me question whether I was right. In the end, it actually smashed lower, so it came right up to the brink really within that trade, but ultimately worked out well and managed to break back below that 105.55. Now we're seeing some downside, you can see in terms of the red candles, but ultimately we're seeing a gap higher and then a move lower so far today. So there is a potential for some sort of recovery, and particularly going to be looking at 105.55 as a very important level as resistance if we reach it. This is the hourly time frame. If I give you a little bit more clarity, you can see here we're retracing. We had flatlining tops 104.85. That's a bit of a warning sign, the fact that we didn't manage to create new highs. But if we get back towards 104.28, could be a good buying opportunity in my opinion. Put your stops below this sort of 104.09 level and see if we can get a move back towards that resistance level. What we're looking at the moment looks like we could be seeing a retracement of this wider move, this sell-off on the 15th and the 16th, the sort of overnight move. And therefore we could be seeing a retracement before another leg lower. In particular, 105.55 would be very important. But for the time being, I do think we should have further in the tank. It really depends on how this risk sentiment really plays out. If we continue to see gains in terms of the likes of the indices and the like, then we're likely to see further gains in terms of dollar yen. So I'd be very interested to see price action around about this 104.28 and see how it responds to that key support level.